Okay, I'm going to demonstrate Project 1, drawing skeletal letters for you. You're going to need a few things. You're going to need your fine point black Sharpie, you're going to need your red extra fine point Sharpie, and a pencil might come in handy. You will need the lettering guide provided. Just a note on this is sized so that it will print on both US letter and A4 paper, just in case you're not in the United States. Please print it at 100% size. Do not scale to fit. A lot of print applications have scale to fit the page turned on as a default. You want to uncheck that so it just prints at 100% actual size. You will need your lettering style guides. You want to start with number 1, the geometric style, and I recommend that you just have one style out at a time. I've seen students sometimes if you have all 3 styles out on the table while you're drawing, and you can accidentally jump between them and get kind of confused. I recommend that you do one style at a time, work on geometric first, and practice it until you're fairly comfortable with it before you move on to number 2 and number 3. And then you will, of course, need your marker paper. Now you remember marker paper is slightly translucent, much less so than tracing paper, and it's much better for working with markers. Now lay your lettering guide underneath your top sheet of paper in the marker pad. It may not come through on the video, but I can see this grid guideline fairly clearly through the paper. And then you basically just want to start with the first capital letter in the alphabet and work your way through. Practice the letters, check against the model as you go, and keep doing a test. Now the point of these skeletal letters is just the skeletons. You don't need to make absolutely perfect letters. You're not doing sign painting, you're not doing type design. You basically just want to get the skeletons right. So there are 2 things to keep in mind. The proportion, which you can see is measured in grid squares, and the actual shape of the letters, where curves start and end, where crossbars fall, etc., etc. So the geometric style has component proportions, meaning that different letters are different widths, especially in the uppercase. So your capital A is 3 squares wide, your capital B is 2 squares wide, capital C is 4 squares wide, etc., etc. Sometimes things are at halfway between 2 squares. Just do your best. Another thing to keep in mind is where curves start and end. So basically you already know the alphabet, you already know how to write. You are not learning how to write the alphabet now, you're learning how to create letters in these very specific styles. So keep a close eye on where curves start. So for example, in the capital B in the geometric style, you'll notice that for an entire square our top stroke is straight, and then it curves to the next square and then curves back in. A very helpful way to think about these letters and think about where things start to curve and stop curve is to think of a clock face. I'm going to actually show you with capital A. So I'm going to draw a capital A. This extends to the middle. It's 3 squares wide. It extends to the apex is at halfway between, and then your crossbar is halfway between the third and fourth grid, or second and third grid line. That is not a particularly great A, and this is what your red marker is for. You want to check yourself as you go. Basically, things aren't that straight. Where the two diagonal strokes join isn't that great. So I can do that again, and I can do that better. And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to practice, you need to check yourself, figure out what you're doing wrong, check against the model. That one's better. I'm going to do it one more time. Oh, I really screwed up that one. You can see that it's completely asymmetrical. That's pretty good. Now, what I wanted to point out with this was that it's very helpful to think about a clock face. Type designers and fighter pilots, this is the one thing that they have in common, is they talk about 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and the hours in between. Thinking about this clock face becomes a very useful way to think about where things actually change, where components fall, where curves and straights shift. And another reason that you have the pencil is that at first you may find it helpful to actually make little marks. So I'm going to do one more A with marks. So just going to make a small pencil mark there, and one here. That's 3 squares wide, and then up at the top, one in the middle where I want my apex, where I want my 2 strokes to join. So that may be a big help at first. As you practice, you're going to get used to this, and it's going to come easier and faster. I recommend drawing each letter 5 to 10 times, at least 5 times. Mark your best ones with a check mark or a heart or a little smiley face or whatever you want, but make a note and do this ongoing feedback as you go. Which ones are your best? If you think that you've really nailed it after 5 tries, then great, you can move on to the next letter. If you're having trouble with it, I would do up to, say, 10 tries. If you've drawn a letter 10 times and you're just not getting it, I would then move on to the next letter. By the time you work your way through the whole alphabet, you'll become more comfortable. So you don't want to spend the whole entire week perfecting the capital D in the first style only to find that you haven't done all the rest. So at least 5, no more than 10 practice tries. I'm going to do the capital B now in the geometric style. I'm going to use the pencil to make little notes. So the capital B in geometric style is 2 squares wide, but it doesn't transition to a curve until the second square. I want to mark that the rightmost point of the top curve is there, the bottom of the top bowl is there, and mark those positions for the bottom bowl as well. Now, I'm not drawing it out in pencil first. I'm just making little tiny tick marks. You really want to do the drawing with the marker. And you can do these things in sections, especially with the geometric. You may find it helpful to do it in sections, or you may find that you get a better curve if you do them in larger pieces. But either way, keep an eye on where things actually change from curved to straight, where features fall, the nature of the curves. In our first style, geometric, all the curves are really based on circles. That's why it's the geometric style. In the other style, in the style number 2, the curves are based more on ovals and they're very symmetrical. In our third humanist style, it's really based on human writing, so the curves are asymmetrical. So of these three, I don't like that one very much, I don't like that one very much. I think that second one is my best attempt. If I were a student and not showing you what to do, I would do at least 5 Bs, I would do no more than 10. But I am going to move forward to some of the other characters, just to help you see how this works and point out any problem areas. So let's actually move forward to the O. You'll notice in your model that the O is 4 squares wide. It's basically pretty much a perfect circle. In the geometric style, it tends to be very symmetrical. I marked the descender line instead of the baseline. Keep that in mind. Our cap height is 4 characters high. That next square down is your descender line, so you don't want to make that mistake with the capitals. Now you may find it helpful to do curved letters in 2 parts. There's a few things wrong here. I'm sort of more pointy and egg-shaped at the top and bottom, and this join where the 2 sides meet isn't great. I'm going to try it this way in 2 halves. That's a little bit better. I'm still a little bit egg-shaped up at the top. So I'm going to try it again. Let's do it one more time. So you notice I'm trying different starting and ending positions for my curves, different places where I might pick up or put down my marker. Basically do what it takes to match your model and to get well-formed letters. That's still not great, but with practice it'll get better. I want to move on to the lowercase. The lowercase in the geometric, even though the geometric is component proportions, meaning that the capitals are different widths, the lowercase generally all tends to be 2 squares wide by 2 squares tall. There are some exceptions, of course. The I and the J and the L, because they're single lines, they tend to be much narrower. The lowercase m and the lowercase w are 3 squares wide. They're a little bit wider, but for the most part, most of the letters are 2 squares wide. So remember, you're going from baseline. In this case, you're only going up to the 2nd square. The other 2 styles have a taller x height of 2.5, represented by that dashed line. But for geometric, you have a an x height of 2 squares. So I'm going to do my lowercase a. And remember, everything is based on circles. Everything is a perfect circle. When you're first learning the letters, you want to stay on the grid squares. Alright, that third one is much better. You can see that the first two are a little uneven. The third one is getting much better. So it absolutely takes practice. Practice, practice, practice. What else? Let's do one with an ascender. The lowercase f. So you can see in this example the curve is over the length of one square only, then it becomes straight. And my crossbar is at the second square. I'm going to try that again with a bit more of a geometric curve. Okay, I like that second one better. So you want to keep doing this, giving yourself positive and negative feedback as you go. This will help you improve. It's not just the practice, but the learning to see the shapes very critically. So you will do this with geometric style, and basically just fill up the pages, use as many pages as you need until you're comfortable with each lettering style. Between 5 to 10 copies of each letter. Once you're done with geometric, you'll move on to the grotesque, style number 2, and once you're done with that, then you'll move on to the humanist, style number 3. And once you're comfortable with all the styles, then you are going to do a single page pangram. So it will be the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, your name, the lettering style, in the lettering style, one per page. And there are examples of that in the project brief.